Hey, welcome to Quick Story. My name is Joddie Taylor. For each podcast episode, I am going to be sharing, you guessed it, a quick story that is 10 minutes or less. I hope that you get a laugh or insight or learn something new. I would just love for you to get something you need from each podcast episode. Okay, are you ready? Let's get into it. Hey, it's Editing Jody. I just realized that in this quick story, my name story, I say something like, when my mom first came to this country, and then I go on with the quick story. So I thought I'd add some identifiers in case you're curious or interested. The country in question is the United States. My parents moved from Jamaica, West Indies to this country that I'm sitting in, that I'm in right now, the United States of America. Okay, please enjoy my quick story, my name story. Quick story. My name is Jody Veronica Taylor. How did my parents come up with this name? I'll tell you. So when my mom first came to this country, she met a little girl named Jody, spelled Jody. She really liked this girl. So when my parents were expecting me and they were deciding if it's a boy, what should we name him? If it's a girl, what should we name her? My mom quickly said, Jody Marsha or Marsha Jody, which is funny to me because I can't imagine being called Marsha. Jody, my mom was always leaning towards Jody. That was her preference. Jody was definitely going to be in there. Jody Marsha or Marsha Jody. So while she was still pregnant, one of my cousins was born a few months before me, and she was named Marsha. So for my parents, that took Marsha out of the running. And my dad said, how about just give her your middle name if it's a girl? So it'll be Jody Veronica. Because back then, there were no sonograms. There were no gender reveal parties. So it was it was just a guess. They were just guessing and planning for either a boy name or a girl name. My dad had very strong opinions on the name if it was a boy. So that was settled pretty early. There wasn't much back and forth about that. So fast forward, a few months go by, and a snowy, rainy, stormy night in New York City, my mom goes into labor, and one of my aunts called an ambulance. The ambulance came, and her OBGYN at that time was in the city. So in the city, if you're not a New Yorker, Manhattan. So the police officer said, no, we're not going to take you to the city, but we'll take you to Kings County. We'll take you to a Brooklyn hospital. And my mom said, absolutely not. And they got in a taxi, her and my aunt, and they went to the city on a dark, cold, stormy night. So they get to the hospital. I'm laughing, but there were some issues. So it wouldn't have been a sonogram then. I believe it was an x-ray. An x-ray was taken. My dad and one of my uncles got there a little while after. And that is how he found out, surprise, we're having twins. So I am a twin. I have a twin brother. He has his own name story, which he may or may not share publicly one day. So I'll stick to my name story. So that's how he found out. When I asked my mom, why didn't you tell him, that you were expecting twins? She didn't tell anyone. No one knew except her and her doctor. And she said, and I quote, your father would have told the whole world, end quote. So, yeah, my mom is private, and she was super private about having a baby. And she, the funny thing is, another funny thing, I asked her, well, did you have two names, like in case it was two boys or two girls? And she was like, no. So, and she really did not know that she was having a boy and a girl. So if I had a twin sister, who knows what my name would have been? Maybe I wouldn't even have gotten Jody. But that's how it turned out. So that is the quick story of how I got my name. Another note on, I'll tell you my spelling of Jody and the pronunciation. So I spell Jody, my mom spelled Jody, Joddie. She didn't want the Y that the little girl that she knew Jody had, because she wanted it to be different. And when she thought of the pronunciation, she was thinking of like a French pronunciation or a Haitian Creole pronunciation, sort of like Jody. Please, French and Haitian folks, I'm doing my best. I know that's not how it sounds, but that never took off. I've always just been called Joddie, pronounced just Joddie. And I guess if I had to phonetically spell that, it would be Jodee. So again, my middle name is Veronica. And if I'm ever walking down the street and I hear Veronica, I'm 100% certain when I turn around, it's going to be someone who I knew when I lived in Korea, because in Korea, I went by my middle name. So another little fun fact about me. So that's my name story. Thanks for listening. I have to say a huge thank you first to my mom, because I had heard this story before, but I called her up just for this episode to get like a refresher on the details. And we had like a funny conversation. Good times. Next, I'd like to thank May Kay Sang. She recently wrapped up, as of this recording, the Sustainable Visibility Digital Summit Thingamabob. I feel like I'm getting that title wrong. It's a funny title. I'm actually going to look it up because it's such a great title. I want to make sure that I say it correctly. I'll put the correct title in the show notes as well. Okay, it's the Sustainable Visibility, Not Quite a Summit Thingamabob. This is a digital event that was absolutely amazing. I'm actually, as of this recording, it just wrapped up today. And it's simply the best digital event I've ever attended. During this digital event, there is a mini workshop by Danby Chin. And I won't give all the details here. Links will be in the show notes. But in part, it talked about storytelling. I'll say that. And special shout out and thank you to Danby Chin, because I don't think I would have ever recorded this podcast episode had I not attended this summit and had I not watched her mini workshop. So thank you, Mom, May Kay, and Danby. Thanks for listening. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Quick Story with me, Joddie Taylor. I would love to connect. Do you have any questions for me? Would you like to say hello or perhaps leave a comment on this episode or any other episode? Yes? If so, please shoot me an email at jodie@snackysays.com. That's JODDIE@snackysays.com. You can also visit me online at jodie.substack.com. Both my email address and Substack information will be in the show notes, where you'll also find any resources mentioned during this episode. The last thing I want to leave you with is, you have a story to tell. I hope you're telling it. Tell your story today.